Welcome to another episode of Bringing Down the Grindhouse, a podcast where we discuss horror in media. And tonight, lock your doors. Don't let strangers in and protect your children as we explore the Babadook. I'm Mitch.
I'm Murr.
I'm Justine.
And I'm Jonathan.
I got so hyped up on
You were hyped. You were hyped on the
I was
intro.
so nice on
You were
the
ready
intro.
for that.
Because it's like one of my things.
Good job,
It's like the
man.
thing. I like having a thing.
You do great intros.
Can you,
I appreciate
Can
that.
you
Yeah.
do the Babadook Duke Duke?
Yeah, do
It's
it.
like
Do the
scratchy.
Babadook,
It's like a
dook, dook.
scratchy voice.
Babadook. Dook. Dook.
There you
Oh,
go.
shit.
There you go.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah,
that was a good
alright.
one. Shit. All right. I think I want to just cut that little bit out and just use it for the
Yeah,
preview.
right.
I am a flutter. Thank you.
I like it. Hell yeah.
Oh, he's blushing over here. Okay. Oh.
So
Damn.
we're only talking about the Babadook because there's a lot to go through on just this single film. Doing all right there, Mer?
Yeah, we're doing fine.
Yeah?
Perfectly fine. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my notes in order.
I got so
my
distracted.
vape is all over the place. My digi-siggy.
Diggy
Yeah.
You
All
gotta
right.
patent
Yeah,
that.
when cigarettes went digital, all right, analog was out.
Now we just got to call cigarettes analog cigarettes if you're using the old school method.
True.
Or
I
you could-
prefer analog. Call me old fashioned.
I wonder which one will kill you faster.
It's a good question.
Do we- all right, no more e-cigs at the table, boys.
What table?
I'm gonna.
That's true.
No more e-cigs in the house, children.
So I think we should start off by saying if we've had any ghost stories, encounters ourselves.
I
Does
have
anybody have
a-
any good ghost stories?
I have like a mild one from when I was younger. It's not really a story, but just something that would occur. Is I think I was probably around preschool, kindergarten age, and I had this old like antique chair that would sit in the corner of my room. And only when it was dark, it wouldn't matter if it was daytime or nighttime, but if it was dark in my room, I would see this little misty figure sitting in the chair. And in my age, I just thought it was like another child, and so I would try to play with it.
Oh
and
God.
it didn't occur to me that I was like, possibly having an encounter with a spirit until I got older. I was like, okay, well,
That made me think of when I was first watching the Babadook. I thought that the kid was like fighting a bunch of random monsters or demons, and that's why he was always making those weapons during the film. But it turned out just to be the one Babadook in it. But that's what it makes me think of.
yeah.
Also, kids always have imaginary friends, and I'm always weirded out by that.
Yeah, it's interesting what children can perceive because,
Yeah.
like at that age, they haven't really been told what to believe in yet.
Right. They have no
And
filter
so,
for
yeah,
anything.
they have no filter. And so they simply like react to what's in front of them. And maybe it's not something that we choose to believe in or can actually see, but to them, it's very real.
Yeah, exactly.
I was reminded of like The Haunting on Hill House.
Oh, that's a
I
good
need
one.
to finish that.
It's a good show. But there's one part where orphan child gets adopted, and like the guy who adopted her actually like sexually abuses her
Jeez.
in the basement. But the thing is, she talks about this monster called Mr. Smiley. And the thing is, one of the girls there, she like one of the main characters, she could like connect with the spirit world if she touches it with her bare hands. That's why she always wears gloves.
Oh.
So she goes into the basement and she like touches the couch and she realizes what happens, and she lays down on the couch and she sees in the ceiling, like in the area of the wood, like the wood grain makes a smiley face.
Oh.
So in her like child brain, she made Mr. Smiley a monster because it was her
Yeah.
foster parent.
Yeah, she had no way to process what was happening, so she created that.
Yeah.
God damn.
It was horrible to hear that.
Yeah.
Another theme of processing trauma, which is discussed a lot, I feel, in this movie.
Yeah, almost the entirety of the film is about the main character dealing with her own traumatic events and the fallout from what happens when she loses a loved one and then has to like move forward with her life.
Speaking about losing a loved one, my mom has like a spiritual kind of thing that happened with her.
What happened?
So there was one day she went to work and her coworker came to her and said, she kept calling her Teresa the entire day.
Oh, jeez.
She said like 4 times. My mom's name is Christina. And Teresa is the name of my grandmother. She called her Teresa 4 times that day.
Oh my god.
She's like, my name's not Teresa, my name's Christina. She's like, oh, okay. And then they went to, they went on there with their day. Next day happened. She's like, I had a dream and I was talking to your mother. And she wants you to know that she's watching over you right now.
Oh my god.
And that she's very proud of you for graduating school and doing everything good with your life right now.
What?
And so she was like, I think that's why she was calling her Teresa, because my grandma was actually trying to reach out to her.
It's interesting. That woman was likely in some ways a medium.
She
was extra sensitive to that sort of spiritual energy.
That's the thing. Like, that's what my mom believes.
Yeah.
She is a medium. But also my boss, hi, Steve.
Does he listen?
No.
Oh, okay.
But
tell him to listen to this one.
Yeah.
So he told us about a time where this was like 70s or 80s, was doing a lot of acid with his friends. And they're both chilling on the couch, bong in hand, chips on the fucking table. And they look up at the ceiling and they see a white ring around a black ball.
What?
And they're just like, yo. Both of them are seeing this. They're like, are you seeing this? And then in the split second, it goes whoosh, and it squishes into the table. And then it zooms as fast. He said as fast as it could out the window. And they heard fucking glass cracking. And so like they were just like, what the fuck was that? And then after they came down, they checked the window and there was a hole in the window.
What?
That's insane.
Oh my god, just a couple of aliens checking out these stoners.
What a trip.
What are you guys doing over? Oh shit. They could fucking
They
see
spotted
me.
us. They
right.
could see us.
LSD suddenly took down the fucking invisible barrier.
thing.
Yeah.
It's always funny what
force field.
It's always funny what fucking bosses will tell you when you're at like a work party or whatever and drinks are flowing and they're just like, all right, off the record though.
Right.
I had this weird experience. What about you, Mitch? Anything weird, creepy, scary noises? Or are you not susceptible to these things?
The house that I live in currently, I used to live in all by myself.
It's a big house.
It's a pretty big house.
That
I
is a
used to
big
live
house.
there
Yeah.
all by myself.
Creepy.
And so I would always hear like weird noises and stuff like that from the inside of the house, but I've never like had anything like that directly affected me. So it would be something like a door suddenly like slams in the house. And like in the middle of the night, you just hear a slam, and there's no one else that lives here. My door to my bedroom does this, and it may just be like air currents, but it happens pretty frequently. If it's like just barely open, it'll like close itself,
right,
and whatnot. And so this may be air currents.
I'm gonna say it's air because that happens to my door.
Yeah, exactly. But I've always believed
still
that
freak
it's
me
haunted.
out,
But
though.
still like just things doing things on their own is not right.
See, but that gets into like, are you sleeping with your door open?
No, it's usually closed.
So it'll just happen like when you're just sitting in there doing random shit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is your door like easily openable? Like if you were to just push on it, would it open?
Not unless it's like fully closed. If it's like if you haven't put like the, I guess, what is that called, like the tumbler? I guess whatever that bit is called, the tumbler. If the tumbler's not fully in the door, it can be easily opened. But if it's like fully closed, then it's fine. But sometimes like I don't fully close the door.
Yeah.
And it slams shut. So it might just be air currents. But you know what? Things that slam in the middle of the night are just cause for concern.
Yeah, that would freak me out. I get spooked really easily, so anytime the door like slightly moves because it creaks, I'm just freaking out.
Same.
But I discovered that if you put any weight onto this bedroom door in this apartment, it'll just open. And I found that out because Bronson scared the shit out of me one night.
The cat.
But yeah, my cat. Not some random dude. My cat, he's a big boy, so he came and like pushed on the door and it just flung open, and I thought somebody had just opened the door to my bedroom, and I looked down and he meowed at me and I was like, oh shit, okay, he can open this door. And since then I've slept with it like kind of creaked open so he can just go into the room whenever he wants. It's kind of funny.
I mean, cats always fucking do that. Because
they scare the shit out of me.
They always
sometimes.
find a way. They're so meticulous.
Like my friend Noah, his cat Janie, we were all alone in the house watching the house, and we just hear dun 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 dun.
Oh
we're
my
like,
god,
what the fuck? Someone's at the fucking door outside, like on the side door, trying to get in. And we're like,
it's just
all
the cat.
fucking battle ready. And then we hear it. It's in the guest room, and it's fucking Janie locked herself inside a fucking cabinet, Just like, God
Poor
damn it, cat.
Got locked in a cabinet.
Yeah, she's
That fucking
crazy.
sucks.
All right, so the Babadook.
Right. Let's
Babadook.
segue into some production for this because it's pretty interesting. And this is like her debut. This is her one. Well, actually, did she make one other film before this?
She made a short film that was basically the Babadook.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was called The Monster, I believe.
She
Yeah.
had done some acting previously on some TV series in Australia.
Right. So she is an Australian director. It was filmed in Australia and also got a grant from the government, which is a thing that literally every other country does besides the U.S. because we suck.
Fuck!
Well, I mean, like, we have the American Film Institute, but, like, they don't give anybody money. They're like, give us money. Like, we're your distributors, and they're kind of shitty for that. But anyway, Australia was like, we'll give you a grant if you film it in certain parts of the city. And
That's
so
dope.
they gave her some money to get the film started and to create the feature length. Like you said, she had created the original, which is why I think the story is so good. She made a short film about it.
And what is her name?
Her name is Jennifer Kent. She is one of the directors who debuted a film at the 2014 Sundance Film Festival. It didn't win any awards, but I think that year it had Whiplash. So Whiplash kind of swept the floor with everything.
It's hard to
And it's
stand
a
up
good
to
movie.
It's hard to
Whiplash is
stand up to
amazing.
Whiplash.
Yeah.
Like, that's a tough one to fight against.
And it wasn't a commercial success in Australia. It actually was much more successful in the U.S. and other parts of the world. So I don't know. Maybe it just struck a little too close to home for some Australians of like dealing with some mental illness or depression. But it was not a hit. And then it got limited release. And then she got into the festival at Sundance and then got more wide release and much more acclaim.
So the film in the U.S. and in Europe basically grossed, what, $10.3 million with a $2 million budget?
Yeah, so she made a
Nice.
good amount of money on it,
Yeah.
especially with a $2 million budget.
She also notes that she will never make a sequel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you would.
A lot of people come to her and she says, no amount of money will ever get me to make one.
Nice.
Also, they mass commissioned a bunch of these the books that you see within the movie.
Yeah.
They had a pre-order for them. The first 2,000 were signed, and they eventually sold 9,500 units of the Babadook book.
Dang.
They were $80 each.
Yo.
Oh, I would have bought one. Those are
Yeah.
legit. Is it like the full story
The
inside?
full
and
pop out with
everything?
everything, all the little
Oh, that's
sliders.
cool.
They're
Oh,
all handmade
no.
too.
Yeah.
I would be afraid to have that in my house, to be honest.
Kind of a creepy book to have on your shelf, but
Cursed
it's great.
object. No thank you.
Yeah, for real, it really is a cursed object. I
Yeah,
love
I don't need any demon portals in my home. No thank you.
that. Kent studied at the National Institute of Dramatic Arts, or NIDA, where she learned acting alongside Essie Davis, who is the lead actress in the film. And so they were actually pretty good friends before making this film, and I believe she was with her when they were making the short film, so they were easily able to adapt it into a feature-length film and then starred her in the lead role, which she's fantastic. She's the most believable of all the characters, I think, when you watch it, in addition to the kid just being fucking nuts. I was just like, this is well done for a kid actor.
I know, that kid is great. It's really interesting, the method they chose to use for getting him to be
Yeah.
able to portray these roles. There's a lot of scenes in this movie where the mother is just spewing violent obscenities at the child.
She's so mad.
And, the director felt that it would be wrong of her to expose a child to this sort of language,
Yeah, it was, I mean, she even commented at some point that she wasn't going to ruin some kid's childhood because she
Yeah.
wanted to make a film. And so they had a stand-in, which is just a dude on his knees.
Yeah. And so with all the scenes of the mother yelling at the child wasn't actually there. It was just some dude on his knees acting as the child. And when it was the child's time to be filmed, they had the mother just say some random stuff to get the child wound up, oh, I took your Legos and put them in concrete and I'm gonna throw them to the bottom of the river. And he'd be like, no, what the heck?
Very light stuff.
Mom.
Just destroying this child's whole world.
Yeah.
Because of this, there was no script reading, so they didn't have a sit down before the film was went into production. So they were getting their lines on set right before they filmed it.
Fuck, that's
and
kind of
had
hard.
very little practice time for it. So they would shoot things occasionally, several times. And she ended up filming way over the time that they were needing because she would just have these scenes flow naturally. She wouldn't just yell cut in action.
Yeah.
She would she would prep them.
There was never takes It was more like she would start to talk with the actors and like maybe work them through some exercises and then have them like start to act out scenes. But there would never be a moment where she was like, okay, start rolling now, because she would just keep rolling the whole time. And she made a note that like the people in editing hated her because there was just tons and tons of footage that they would have to be like, okay, yeah, this looks good. This is the one we're going to use.
All right, 1 hour, 41 minutes right here.
Yeah, right.
So 1 hour, 52 minutes here.
Right.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense that you would have gone and like pursued acting first. And then her choices make sense based upon her acting background, simply because it means that she was probably more concerned with how the actors are going to portray her scenes and whatnot, rather than what the editing crew was, because she's kind of like, the editors are paid to fucking deal with bullshit. That's what your job is.
Yeah, make this a watchable film.
Yeah, and also like, so she's more concerned with her actors getting their parts right, doing the scenes correctly, and so that makes a lot of sense, especially since they didn't have a reading beforehand or anything like that.
She also did that because she really wanted the energy of the cast to be up. And, when you go through just reading lines over and over again, eventually they start to become sort of mechanical and monotonous. And this way, when you encounter each like section of the movie, each line, it's anew, it's completely different than you might have encountered it before.
Go ahead.
I think that's something that keeps the interest of this film as well, is because of the good performances from pretty much everybody in the movie. Does a very good job of playing the role that they're in. That's all I have to say about that.
I think it was well acted as well. She's just phenomenal as a lead actor, and just driving home the point of her suffering from all the things that are happening in the film.
I felt very stressed out.
Yeah, you're stressed watching her.
I was just like, fuck. This
she
movie
can't catch a break.
This movie and Eraserhead make me never want to have fucking
There's
kids.
So many illusions.
Similarities.
Yeah, so many similarities in these two films, because they both experience some heavy fear of parenthood and having to deal with things while also having to raise a child.
Also heavy on the German expressionism.
Yeah, so she really, really wanted this film to be in black and white. But after several talks with the production company and a few other people, she decided not to do that and instead went with a darker palette. And so the set is meticulously built. She did every single detail on these things and like made sure it looked exactly how it looked.
I love how I talked about in the Eraserhead episode, it's the space that accompanies the area. Mise en scène.
Mise en scène.
Yeah, mise en scène. So I love this because the kid is like obsessed with 50s like sci-fi retro horror movies and shit.
Yeah.
And it's like
what they're watching on the TV at some point.
Yeah, you got all these old school posters for like Forbidden Planet and other shit. And then you see Bela Lugosi and fucking Lon Chaney Jr. in the fucking movies. Also, they use those 1930 fucking movies that like look Satanist as fuck.
Yeah, I just have these weird montages of dancing creatures.
Yo, it's hard though.
What is that? Watch A Trip to the Moon.
Yeah.
Some weird shit, especially when you watch the colorized version.
Oh, I don't want to.
Yeah, that shit is wild.
No, thank you.
I mean, she mentions that she was heavily influenced by the 1950s like B-grade horror films, so you can see it both in her like paying homage to those films by having it like literally in the movie, but also the way that it was filmed. It was grainy and it was very dark, and she knew how to use lighting really well.
Yeah, the whole thing looked very gritty and dirty and just felt like completely in disarray. I mean, even the lead role, hair completely disheveled, dark eyes, dark circles under her eyes, just always like exhausted but putting on a face.
She progressively starts she starts looking worse and worse as the film goes on.
I thought it was intense when like the fucking home, like the child protective services kind of people came in. She's like, "Oh, I'm just clean. There's a hole in the wall."
And there was no hole.
I was just like, these guys are gonna take your fucking kid. You look like a psychopath right now.
I know. She's like, I have a cockroach problem, and the kid's like, I'm on drugs.
Oh my god, this kid is so. I never wanted to punch a child. But like watching this film, I was like, I am so frustrated.
Well, that's
with
the thing.
Kid.
He just speaks his mind, right?
Yeah.
Just like his father did.
He has like zero filter on whatever he's saying.
That's the thing about kids. Like you try to teach them to tell the truth, but then that backfires.
Oh my god.
Then they tell nothing but
the truth. Then they
at the
tell
worst
nothing
possible
but the truth.
times.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I've had it where I know a relative and like their daughter will be like, "Oh, my mom's really nice when she's not drinking," and it's just like, fuck.
It's like, okay, Susie, go play with the kids.
Oh
Go
my
play
God.
with the kids.
Go make me another drink.
As a child,
Oh no!
I was I had no filter.
Oh.
And one day we went to Soup Plantation with the whole family, and a family friend worked at Soup Plantation, so
Yeah.
we were getting a discount. You know, that's my understanding of things.
Oh, I love this story.
And so I like wandered up to the pasta section where she was working, and I looked at her and I was like, "You're fat."
Fuck.
And that was it. And that was all I said. And she began crying.
Oh.
I, as a child, made someone cry with my honesty. Was it honest? I don't really know. I don't remember. She was like a larger lady, sure.
Wow.
But, you know,
Horrible.
terrible. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Awful child, right? No, my parents were just like, "What the fuck did you just say to that lady? Like, what did you? Oh, you're done.
Just
We're not
in
coming
tears.
back to Soup Plantation
Oh
ever
my
again now.
God.
That's
No
Never again."
soft serve for you.
Yeah.
But
No, not my favorite part.
Here's the thing, though. She's like a single parent dealing with a fucking batshit child. Why are you like this?
Screams. It's
Oh,
literally got
man.
turned into a meme
It's
because it
the
was so
meme of the
fucking
movie.
funny.
I watched and I was like, "Here's the meme."
Yeah.
This is the meme.
But she's a single mom, father deceased on the fucking, like, on the day of his birth. Like, that has to be heavy.
Yeah.
Like, it's the best day of your life, but it's the worst day of your fucking life.
If I remember right, they're on the way to the hospital, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
When they get into the car crash.
It's about to rain.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine what kind of guilt she's going through. Like,
Yeah.
she's probably obviously very traumatized by the experience and probably taking some responsibility. Like,
Oh,
he
yeah.
was on the way to deliver this child, and then also having this weird relationship with the child as he came out of such a horrible event.
Yeah, this is like heavy symbolism to how women will feel in postpartum depression after
Yeah.
having their child and not wanting it like at all,
Mm-hmm.
and have to deal with like a month or sometimes years of just not wanting to be around your child.
It has to be a very, like, crazy feeling, like, not wanting a child, but actually having one
Yeah, for real.
unintentionally.
This gets into a lot of like body horror stuff too that other movies have talked about, where there are people who are terrified of having something grow inside them. And it's just like, how are you going to feel about this pregnancy? And then when there's just pretty much all of the gore of having a child and then your body recovering after that. So there's just so many things that they touch on. But this movie focuses really heavily onto the mental illness aspect of what happens after certain traumatic events. And that's like one of the biggest things that you end up seeing in it. And like, before I go into like analyzing some of that stuff, Kent has cited that her influences include David Lynch, of course, and Roman Polanski.
There was one shot that was just stolen from Eraserhead completely.
I'm sure. Wait, which one?
When she falls back into the bed and gets
Oh.
a good
Oh,
night
yeah.
rest of fucking sleep.
Yeah, I feel like she saw, what was it, Blue Velvet, and was like, yep, that's the shot
That's
I want to
the shot.
redo. And because it looks almost exactly like it.
It was beautiful. I was really happy for her to get sleep. I was like, fuck yeah,
Yeah.
give that kid a fucking pill.
Okay, but like when she was trying to masturbate, that was a hilarious scene.
Oh, man.
That pissed me off too.
She was like ready to go, and this
I
kid.
felt the frustration.
Oh my god! Yeah, you're like, oh, this fucking kid. Also, not a common thing you see in film.
Right.
The only other one I can think of is the Shape of Water, where
Right.
the main girl masturbates as like part of her morning routine. That's
That's
like
my kind of morning
yeah,
routine.
she has like a little timer that she sets onto the sink.
It's like, all right, I got 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's like it's so funny. But that was the only other time I could think of. And then the guy who made the soundtrack was the guy who made the music for Alien Covenant, and it eventually got turned into a vinyl record that Waxwork Records made. And they're pretty famous for making very specialized vinyl pieces for like mostly obscure films and then like some indie films. But that
Very
was,
similar to the Mondo guys, kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, they do like limited releases, so the one time they make it is like the only time you can pick it up.
I
They
love
won't
you,
redo it.
Ralph Ashik.
And then of course it casts Essie Davis as Amelia Vanek and Noah Wiseman as Samuel Vanek.
Samuel.
So right off the bat, what did you guys think? What were your initial thoughts? Like, did something stand out to you?
It's an interesting premise, having to deal with a monster that is like manifested from the kid's head, but actually represents more.
Yeah.
And then like how they deal with it. It also gets like some Exorcist vibes in the middle. because the
Oh,
monster
yeah.
takes
I love
over.
the call out from him. So the director of The Exorcist said that this movie truly terrified him, and it's one of his favorite films.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
so I was like, that's such a
Fucking
good call out from another
snaps.
director.
It's like good fucking praise and worth it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, like, I also found out that the Babadook it
It's like a viral meme.
it is a viral meme because like they accidentally put in the LGBT section of Netflix.
Yeah.
So it
So
became
funny.
a unironic gay icon for like a
Yep.
lot of people for some reason.
I believe it.
But they're like, look, he brings you a book and then you destroy it. So he puts it back together because drama. And I was just like, fuck.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff released about that afterwards where they were trying to like connect.
Yeah,
The
Vice did
two.
a whole article on it.
Fucking Vice.
They'll do an article on
Vice
anything.
is like, I don't know how to feel about them anymore because they originally started off really well, and now I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
man.
the funniest new Vice article, sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but it was just like, it was like 9 to 5, the life of a full-time Target worker. I was like, all right, here we go.
It's like, I don't want to be that depressed. Come on.
I like the jokes about the Vice people who are just in the middle of a war zone, like with their notepad being like, all right, so how do you feel about this war? And there's like bullets going on around their head. It's like, that was like the crazy gnarly articles they used to do. And now they're just kind
I
of like,
know. I have to say,
yeah.
though, like, their war coverage
Quality
was,
has gone
like,
down.
pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Our old stuff, like, when they first started out, they did, like, skate vids and war coverage. It was
And
pretty
drugs.
they really
interesting.
did do skate
And
vids.
fucking drugs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
lots
and
of drugs.
drugs, yeah.
They interviewed so many drug dealers. Anyway, we
But yeah-
digress
but yeah.
from the Vice article.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I like the Babadook. It's a very interesting premise. I haven't seen a movie like this. This is my first time watching it, so
Nice.
I enjoyed it generally.
All right.
This is actually my second time watching it, and the first time I watched it, I didn't really read anything about it. And so going in, everyone
you
was
had
talking
zero
about
idea.
yeah, everyone was talking about how scary it was, and so I was assuming it was a lot of jump scares, you know. So the first time I watched it, I didn't really like it personally because it didn't scare me like I thought it would, but I went back and did a little bit of research about it, and coming back to watch it again, I realized just what a powerful statement it is about people who experience post-traumatic stress and how, you know, the more you subdue the stress and try to ignore the trauma of what happened, the worse it gets, you know. And I
Yeah.
feel like that was something the director actually talked about in an interview that she tried to portray in this movie, is how dealing with trauma is obviously a very painful experience, and oftentimes suppressing the trauma and not experience it can lead to a whole other array of problems.
Right, and things compound on her as she goes on through
Yeah.
the film.
Right.
So it's like showing exactly that.
And there's just a lot of themes of her feeling isolated, you
Yep.
know, because after experiencing something like that, it's hard to relate to things
Right.
anymore. And so there's a lot of scenes like when she was talking to the other moms
My
and she
God.
was sitting by
But you
herself
know what?
at
All
the
those other
table.
moms were bitches.
Yeah,
they
they
were
were
fucking
bitches.
mean.
Yeah,
I
they
was
were.
so happy when she told them off. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she really did. She was like, what? Fuck you and your kid.
Wow,
Even when
wow,
she
you
was
can't work
talking-
out that much? Wow, my fucking husband's dead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she was just
right.
like, what the fuck,
And
dude?
even when she was talking with, I think it was her sister at the
Yeah.
park, and her sister was like, I just think you need to get over it, and just talking shit about like her kid and how
I was
crazy
also
her
glad
kid
that little
is.
kid went flying off the play
Yeah,
structure. Because fuck that
little
kid.
Sam punched this little
Yeah, you don't have a
brat ass
dad.
child.
Dude, the
Oh,
meanest kid.
honestly, kids were like that. Kids are like that.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
But-
Child was asking for it. Just saying. She got Bran Starked, and we all know.
Oh.
It was
Yeah.
right, but it was the correct thing.
Oh.
I
my
also
God.
love the line. He's like, I broke her nose in 2 different places.
I know, so
He was
casual.
proud. He
I
was
love
proud.
that
But-
kid.
To comment on what you said about
Yeah.
like people suppressing it, I'll make a wager. Yes, I'll make a bet. The more you deny, the stronger I get.
Yeah.
The literal line from the little book,
Mm-hmm.
which is such a strong symbolism to how you have to deal with mental illness, basically.
Yeah.
In this case, she's dealing with depression, with post-traumatic stress, with a lot of anxiety.
Postpartum possibly as
Postpartum,
well.
possibly, yeah.
She's getting hammered in all directions.
So it's just so many things that usually come together, and the film uses its tone and setting to kind of drive that point home, where she's experiencing anxiety from things that are going on around her, so noises, like the lighting in some cases. She thinks that she sees things, like in the police office. She looks over and thought she saw the Babadook, but it's actually just a coat
Yeah.
I've done that before.
I've done that so many
I
times.
do this all the time.
Yeah, but do you pull a handgun out?
Just pull out your Glock. I got it.
I've done that before. I'm just like, oh, fuck. Oh, God, there's nothing there. Let's put this away.
That's like that chair that's full of clothes. It's just in your room.
I have 2 of those in my room.
Looks like a man just sitting in your chair. You're like, what the fuck?
My fan also looks like a dude just standing there.
Oh, yikes.
It's
That would
not
freak
fun.
me
Yeah,
out.
it's not cool.
See, this is why I sleep with Christmas lights on.
Yeah, right. I can see everything.
What
gently.
did you think of the Babadook?
To answer John's question, I've seen the Babadook probably 3 or 4 times since it was released, and it was introduced by like a film buff friend of mine to me. He was like, "Hey, if you don't like horror movies, this is a horror movie you should check out." And I was like, "It's called The Babadook," and I was like, "That's a dumb fucking name for a movie. Jesus Christ, what the fuck?" And then I watched it, and I was like, that was actually pretty interesting. Like, holy crap. And then he started bringing up all of the concepts that I totally missed during it, because I was just like, oh, this is just like creepy, but I think it's pretty cool and interesting, and I didn't understand why. And then he was like, oh, if you consider that, like these points we'll mention later on in the episode, of course, but like if you pay attention to these particular things and like really like critically think about it, there's a lot of symbolism and a lot of things that are referenced in this book in relation to like grief and, I mean, mental health illness, like we've all been discussing already.
Kent was really specific about wanting to make the Babadook very lo-fi, as in like it's just like a cutout that they like wheeled forward at some point in the film. The only exception is the one person who dressed up as the Babadook and like leaps down from the ceiling, which is like a terrifying scene because he like jumps into her at that point and she has to like vomit out all of the blackness that's coming from her. So it's like she was very set on making it like a simple monster.
I have a question about throwing up black shit.
Yeah.
So how many
We've
times?
seen it more than once.
So many times in horror movies, I've seen someone throws up black stuff, and
we've seen it now in this movie. We saw it in
Jennifer's
The Lighthouse. Body. We saw it in Jennifer's Body. We also saw it in Mandy.
So here's my question for you guys: is what does throwing up black goop represent?
Dispelling evil.
That's like one of the biggest ones. It's like,
yeah, that's what I figured
on the
too.
spiritual side of it, it's like, yes, you're trying to dispel evil from yourself.
Right.
From the point and lens of mental illness, it's her trying to cleanse herself of these things that are happening, which is so like the Babadook ended up being like the manifestation of like the worst possible thing that can happen when you're experiencing mental illness, which is that you're gonna like literally hurt another person. In this case, it was hurting her own child, and so she was trying to get that feeling out of her.
We're forgetting a very crucial character that was harmed in this movie, which would be the dog.
No.
So this dog, he just got stabbed, right? Like just
No, he
No,
fucking
she
broke his
choked
neck.
Snaps his neck with her
Oh,
bare hands.
my God.
Like...
I'm thinking of another movie. Sorry.
DoesTheDogDie.com.
Oh, it
Yes.
does.
Oh,
it absolutely
yeah.
does.
There's a very special note that says no animals were harmed in the making of this film.
that little marshmallow gets demolished.
I hate it.
I'm so glad the old lady was okay, though.
True.
Yeah.
I like her.
Oh,
Yeah.
A good wholesome neighbor.
She really was just trying to make sure she's okay.
Yeah,
To be honest, though, I feel like her coming in at that moment saved her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I think honestly what fueled the Babadook was just her feeling of despair and isolation, and having somebody come over and just be like, hey, like, I care about you, like, I'm here if you need me. I think that was sort of like there is hope in the situation.
Also,
Right.
like, she also tells her, I love both of you guys very much.
That is a sweet. So that was like a really sweet piece of dialogue where she goes up and like has a nice, genuine, like authentic moment where she's like, I actually like care about you guys and want to know like how you're doing, and that is enough for her to be like, oh wow, like there are other people. And this made me think of when people feel like they're super isolated and they will get a moment like that with a friend or like anybody who kind of approaches them. They'll like tell them something that's surprising, and that'll like not be expected from somebody because they have these intrusive thoughts of like, nobody wants me around. These are like things that you're going to experience all alone, and like no one wants to help you. And so when she got that moment, it was like one of the turning points for how she might feel about the whole situation.
Definitely.
I mean, one of the things, she's also like dealing with like loneliness as well, because one of her lifelines for taking care of her son has just been like smote out of existence. And so she hasn't been able to fully cope with that.
Right.
And that's where like the Babadook comes in.
And nobody's helping her. They're telling her to get over it. they're like, why are you not done with your grief? Like, you need to move on from this. And it's so insensitive for almost anyone in there who's just like, I know your husband died and shit, but like, raise your kid, fuck. And you're like, this is so brutal for the mom who's just trying to deal with all this shit that's going on. And it's like basically untreated mental illness because she's not talking to anybody.
Yeah, she didn't have any sort of therapist. She just had some psychiatrist that was prescribing her drugs.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
which
actually
is bad practice in all honesty. You should never be prescribed drugs without also therapy coinciding with it.
I'm glad you brought it up because that was another aspect of the film that it wasn't that big, but it is something that should be discussed because people have a lot of, they're not sure if they should go talk to therapists because of that fact. They might just be like, oh, you just need this, and then prescribe
There you go. Zoloft helps.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's a Band-Aid.
And like basically give you some medication that might sedate you at some point, or you're just like, I'm going to have bad side effects because of this. And then you're not actually dealing with the other aspect of it, which is that you really do need to talk to somebody in addition to taking whatever medication that they give you.
I think it should be something of note that mental health medications absolutely do help people.
Yes.
It's I've been doing a lot of research on ADHD and whatnot and its effect on the people who have it, and it's not really that well recognized of a mental disorder at all.
Right.
Being as I am one of those people. So I can say that Ritalin and Adderall and whatnot helped me when I was a lot younger, and I just honestly don't enjoy the feeling of those nowadays in my adult life. But I'd say that they do help people, but I think one of the messages that the Babadook is trying to get across is that you can't rely on medication to deal with your problems. You have to actually face them yourself.
Right. Because ultimately, when she did defeat the Babadook, is because she confronted it. She just said, you're not going to hurt us anymore.
Yeah.
You're not welcome.
She also like bonded again with her son.
Yeah.
And was like, she got into the unconditional love aspect of the relationship and was like, I have to protect him.
Right. And I think that was what was missing the whole time from the relationship, and why she felt so insecure with what they had is because she just didn't feel that love aspect. But it's understandable after experiencing something so traumatic, it's hard to go back and, you know, show love to anybody.
Right.
That's the thing, like, after the Home Alone sequence where he's able to, like, strap her down into the fucking basement, he has that heartfelt moment that, like, made me actually go, aw, where he's like, you don't love me, but that's the Babadook.
Oh,
but
that's right,
But
yeah.
I love you. And I was just like,
Dang.
oh, I fucking hate you, kid, but you hit it right there. And that's when she's able to fucking throw it up.
The moments that I love the kid are when he's fucking when he's Kevining her around and whatnot, and just like setting up tripwires. He has the catapult on his back.
Dude.
He stabs his mom in the leg.
Oh, gee, he was too prepared.
Yeah, no,
He's
he
seen
was
enough
ready.
horror movies. He's like, I know what to
I
do.
love that backpack catapult that he built.
Can I get one?
Yeah, I was like, where do we get these?
It was literally just a catapult with leather straps that he just put on his fucking back and like loaded up whatever he could, and just I'm pretty sure he hit with like everything that he was shooting.
Yeah. He didn't
missed
miss.
no marks.
Yeah,
at all.
I was like, I'm pretty sure he got it every time. So we've touched on a few of them. What were like the main mental illnesses that you saw that she was dealing with? Did we miss any?
I think we got them all.
I think that was all of them, right? I don't think there was anything else.
Postpartum depression. You've got grief. You've got, I don't know,
isolation.
Isolation. You have that one as well.
Post-traumatic stress.
Yep.
Also, this touches on something that's not common in film, which is the idea that you might not exactly like your children.
Yeah.
So a lot of films, they always have these moments where like parents will just never get mad at their kids unless it's a situation where they're like, this kid's getting abused.
Right.
In which case there's no middle ground. And so for this one, it actually explores the idea that you're not going to like your kid 100% of the time. And so this is a weird thing because they always want a mother to be loving to their child. Like it's supposed to be inherently a thing that mothers do, is that because they're a woman, they have to be able to love their child no matter what.
And I feel like usually if there's ever like a bad family dynamic that's portrayed, it's always the father that's sort of the one that causes all the trouble. It's never the mother. The mother's always like taking the repercussions from the father, trying to put things back together, you know. But in this case, you know, she was the problem. I don't want to say that, but she did let the Babadook in.
Yeah, so that was the thing, is that it got to a point where it was affecting both of them. And this is such a strong allusion to the idea that if you let mental illness take over your whole life, basically, you're not going to just be like interrupting your life. Anyone who's around you might experience something bad too because of your responses to them.
And typically that's when you want to classify it as a disorder. If not only it's harming yourself, but also other people.
Especially with a child. I mean, like, you're the sole provider. Mom, I'm hungry.
Well, they up the stress by bringing in child protective services to her home and being like, your kid might get taken away because you're not dealing well with this.
And, you know, I've experienced that a few times when I was younger. So I understand the tension is insane when these people come into your home and threaten to break apart your family.
Yeah.
All because of something that you are not really in control of, or at least at the time you aren't.
Not to mention almost all of the rulings that Child Protective Services does are pretty bullshit.
Yeah, to be honest. But that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's a much larger conversation or something like that. But she added that element in just so you could have an idea of what sort of was at stake for her. And then it moves really nicely into how does she resolve these things? So how does she confront it? How does she overcome her mental illness? Or how does she come to terms with what she's experiencing?
And I think that was kind of a turning point for her because now she has the threat of having her child being taken away. And she's starting to realize, I actually do love this kid, you know?
So on that note, do you guys feel like horror was a good vehicle to talk about mental illness?
Yeah.
It was really a really original way to do something along those lines. I haven't really seen that many movies that deal with that.
Me neither, actually.
Maybe it's been a while since I've seen, but maybe something like Jacob's Ladder might be considered might be good, like a mental illness commentary in a way.
One that did talk about it but didn't really do a good job of discussing it was Frailty, which was the guy who said God was telling him to murder people. And like that was
who, Abraham?
Right, I know. And like that's the movie. He's like, God's telling me to go kill this person, and he like cuts them into pieces and has his whole family help him. It's ridiculous. It has is it Joaquin Phoenix? I think he's like the dad. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, it's one of the movies I could think of.
How do you feel about the manifestation of the Babadook? How do you feel about him as a horror character, horror villain?
That was something I want to talk about. Is I noticed that the Babadook had characteristics that were like a cicada. And you know, the cicadas always come out in the hottest times of the summer. And if you ever heard them, they just have this consistent like buzzing hum that they'll do when they're very chittery, crickety creatures.
Oh shit, they do that with the book. You always hear the cicadas with the book, and as soon as she closes it.
And what's interesting is cicadas come out usually in the dog days of the summer. So the hottest times usually around this time. And this time of the year is noted for people going insane just because of the heat. And so that could have also played a role, is that like she was just sort of at her breaking point with the heat.
I forgot about
that. Was going
heat
on.
Madness is a thing.
Yeah.
That's why most serial killings happen in summer.
Not to mention they're also in Australia, and Australia is hot. And they got some crazy ass things out there.
Yeah, you want to live in the bush?
Right.
Also, like, weird enough, most serial killings in summer in California happen because people leave their doors unlocked.
Yes.
Yeah, and their windows open when it's hot, like the Night Stalker. We've heard about.
Yeah, there's an obscene amount of people that leave their front door open all the time.
I mean, there was that serial killer who got caught and said, "I only killed people if they left their front door unopened."
That was his only qualifier, which is nuts.
Yeah.
Just stalk around the neighborhood, look for a house that's vulnerable.
You know, somebody once told me something very wise, and it was like, if everyone in the world was trustworthy, we wouldn't have locks on our doors.
And what's interesting is
it's true.
There was a time when people didn't lock their doors and that kind of stuff because that just wasn't heard of. But I think it was the Night Stalker that was in Los Angeles that made the people of LA start locking their doors at night.
Yeah, he totally made it a thing for people to like for sure have their doors locked, in addition to having those metal doors on the front.
So is the Night Stalker a villain or a hero?
I'm gonna go with villain.
I'll tell you this about the Night Stalker.
It depends on how you look at it and what you want to choose to perceive.
I'll tell you this about the
Night Stalker. Yeah, exactly. How do you choose to look at a murderer?
Yeah.
That's like saying fucking 9/11 was good because it helped us get airport security. That's a fucking fucked up thing, dude. Man. Fuck off.
No, we got
airport security.
We got that branch of the government, not
TSA.
Branch. Not the TSA. Fuck. The
Space Force.
It was the Space Force, right, John?
fucking Space Force. I'm so mad that I don't know what the government agency is. Whatever. Anyway, there was a government agency made after that because of 9/11.
Yeah.
That didn't exist before that, and I didn't know that.
Let me tell you about the Night Stalker real quick, though.
Yeah.
So my mom, teenager at the time, got wind that Night Stalker was coming to East LA. She told a friend. They told a friend. Now you got cholos being like, Night Stalker's coming. We got to beat his ass.
Yeah.
He comes into the neighborhood. He's going to do his shit. They track him down and beat the living shit out of him. And then he gets caught.
Yeah.
But not before East LA gets the fucking upper hand on his
I love
ass.
that story.
I actually remember reading about that. There's this book I had found about the Night Stalker, and they detailed all the events of what had happened, and that was something they had mentioned, that he got his shit, like, fucked up.
Literally all the homies in East LA were like, nah, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Which is one of the best stories about that. They were like, what? No, you're not going to murder anyone in our family. What the fuck?
That's how the neighborhood rolls.
Yeah. Welcome to East LA.
Hey.
That's fucking great. But so digressing back to how did it manifest, basically, the Babadook was basically the manifestation of both the mental illness for her and fears for the child.
What do you think of its design, though?
It's great. It's like it leaves a lot to your imagination, besides like even the glimpses you got of the dude in full makeup were so brief that you didn't really see what he looked like until you do like a still of it and you get to see like what he looked like with his makeup on.
Mm-hmm.
But the cutout is great. Like that's what you see as a child. And
It's
like
just-
when you're
yeah,
in
just
like
standing.
yeah, you don't know what's happening, and like I loved the effect of them like moving it forward because it just made me think of like, yes, this is like the epitome of German expressionism right here.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
To
what
see
I
it
thought.
in the black and white with the scene
steal.
moving forward.
I also think how it knocks is fucking terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
It does the three quick ones and then boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
There was one thing I noticed. I had been doing some research about some occult things and ghost sightings and interesting stuff like that. And there's a story about the Highgate Vampire. Highgate Cemetery is in
Oh, yeah.
London, I believe. And during the 80s, there's this huge wave of people seeing this thing. And they were all seeing the same thing called the Highgate Vampire. They eventually coined the term. But when I was looking at the images of the Babadook in this, where you could actually see the dude in full makeup, it looked a lot like the drawing depictions of the Highgate Vampire. So that was something interesting I noted. If you have not heard about the Highgate Vampire, I recommend looking up. It's pretty interesting.
I like the theories that came out of that. Some people were guessing that because some of the headstones were so tall, that if they looked at it just right in the fog, it looked like a man standing there. And so people might have just been getting spooked at shadows.
It's possible, but there was a dozen accounts,
Yeah, there's a
probably
lot.
more, of like detailed images, and they all saw a similar thing. It was a man with the hat, very
Yep.
similar to the hat worn by the Babadook.
The top hat that like Jack the Ripper wore.
Just a pale face, very dark features, long fingers, tall guy, you know.
Yeah.
It's spitting image.
I
It's
love
interesting.
urban
Knives for
legends and stuff like
hands.
that.
Yeah, knives for hands.
Makes me think
Jesus.
of like, yes, have you seen the Mothman? Like things like that. Like people bring up stuff and it's like in a concentrated area. So like you don't know if it's just somebody fucking around like in Scooby-Doo or if it's just like, or if it's
Scooby-Doo.
legit like something supernatural going on in these areas.
Something I wanted to bring up was the fan theory that someone has for the ending.
Okay. What do they have for the fan theory?
A big thing about this movie is the dad, and we haven't really touched on that. His basement is full of his belongings. It is
Yeah.
basically his area. She begins to sleep with the violin that he used to play. The kid practices magic, right? Right? He's learning. He's learning
say that,
basic
yeah.
magic. He's watching DVDs on how to do magic.
Yeah.
After the Babadook subsides,
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
hold
he's
on.
doing like the visual magic.
After the
shit.
Babadook subsides and she contains it, the theory is that the Babadook is actually the reincarnation of the dad coming to join back with his family.
I believe it.
Fully agree with that.
Yeah, I actually thought about that at some point.
However, because I mean they have very similar coats and
Yeah.
clothes. However, they believe in this fan theory, they theorize that Samuel gets turned into the Babadook and is the one in the basement at the end of the movie being scared to deal with everyone, while the father takes the manifestation of Samuel, and that's how he's able to do so much high advanced magic by the end of the movie with little to no training. They believe that like the dad might have had something to deal with the occult because they glimpse at it here and there. He was like within like all of his like property and items within the basement. But that's what they think. They think that the father actually transferred planes into the body of his son, and Samuel is now the kid eating worms in the corner, scared because he doesn't have his family.
Oh my god.
That's gnarly.
That fits really well into what's been described in the narrative and what you see visually. I hadn't considered that. Well, shit.
I know, I gotta think.
Yeah.
That's a wrap up for the episode. We got it. We're done.
Yeah, we're done. Bye. Have a good night.
Holy shit. All right. How did you guys feel about the ending?
I have some feelings. So, ultimately, my take about this movie was all about the mental disorder aspect of it. And in a lot of cases with disorders like depression, these things don't really go away. They subside and they can be dealt with and managed,
Yeah.
that's for sure. And I think in the end, how she defeated the Babadook was by confronting it. And in therapy, they say that's the biggest thing you can do is confront the trauma. And after that, she still kept it around, but she was totally in control of it for the most part, ? But she was nurturing it and taking care of it, but not necessarily like ignoring it anymore. She was confronting the thing, like, you are here, but you don't have to be a bad thing. I'm in control of the situation.
Yeah. And ends up like dealing or what's the word? Kind of maintaining her sanity while also dealing with it by feeding it.
Right.
I agree with Justine on this take. But I would say that if you look at it like metaphorically, she's dealing with the Babadook. It's causing her a whole bunch of stress and issues. It's causing her to like lash out against her son and the dog and like basically what's left of her family. And I feel like the Babadook is a representation of grief. That's pretty much my staunch take on this. And that it shows that by it being in the basement and being fed worms and whatnot, shows that your grief will always still be there, like years afterwards, but you can do things to cope and live with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And hence feeding the worms is her way of coping with the grief and keeping it at bay so that it just comfortably stays where it's supposed to.
Right.
In the past.
In a dark recess of your mind.
I thought she was gonna fucking kill her kid. I didn't believe that ending one bit.
I know. I thought she was going to kill
because
the
they
kid too.
allude to it on the TV.
Yeah.
The Babadook comes out and then they do the fake news report where it's like
God, that was good.
they kill, like, she stabs him with a knife on the day of his birthday. I was like, it's his birthday today. She's gonna fucking kill him.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I mean, she already killed the dog, and the Babadook predicted that, or
I do
willed
know
that.
as part of like movie making standards, like the MPAA rating system, you cannot show a child getting stabbed on screen. You just can't do it. It is like against the rules because they consider it to be extremely violent and poor taste.
Yeah, just like it's like illegal to put a fucking child murder in your Fallout video game. It's an RPG, dog. Let me do what I want.
Yo, there's mods for that.
There's mods for
there
that.
better be. I want to fucking punch the kid in Skyrim who keeps telling me, hey, I got a good deal over here. Fuck you.
I got a good deal over here. All right. Did you guys have any favorite scenes then?
The fucking really nice one where she actually gets to, like, she goes down to the coat and touches it, and then you just look at her, like, gaw at the fucking ceiling, and you see a giant flash of white, and you could see, like, her whole mouth is, like, it looks like she's being blown with a leaf blower, but it's just, like, gaping wide, just like, oh, fuck! You don't even see the Babadook, but he's fucking huge.
That made me think of the lighthouse.
Yeah.
When you see the bright light in Ephraim's face.
Yep.
Like when he goes up to the top of the lighthouse and he's just like screaming in silence.
Beautiful.
As far as this movie goes, my favorite scene, one thing I really want to touch on is I really liked the lighting in this movie, which we already talked about. But one of them are these scenes that show the passage of time.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, where it's dark on one side and then the light just completely moves over everything. You're like, oh, now we're in morning.
That's right.
And it's used to some really good effects. So I like all the scenes with that because I felt they're really impactful, but not my favorite. But I wanted to give those a shout out because they're cool.
You're talking about like when she fell asleep?
Yeah, there's one where she's watching TV and it happens. And
Yeah.
it just passes to morning and you know she's been up all night.
Yeah.
Or just like when she's like sleeping in her bed and whatnot, it does the thing to show the passage of days.
Oh, it's like jerky. Like she's like moving because it skips frames while it's doing it too.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, but it's also like, it's just a lighting effect that they put on it. That just really is a very nice touch. Very, very, very succinct.
Yeah.
And then my favorite scene, I think, is when the Babadook is like first introduced. when it like crawls on the ceiling. And then I love Justine's description of it as a cicada, because that makes so much sense.
Yeah,
to me.
Yeah.
I didn't even consider it like, because it almost does look very bug-like when it's
Yeah.
up there. And I just
It
love how
does.
twitchy it is up there. And that's like the creepiest shit. You're just like, it's twitchy.
Yeah.
It is moving up the ceiling, and it goes like, bah, bah, dook, dook, you know, and it just does that to her. And you're like, no.
I don't want any of
Get
this.
out of the room. Get out. Just hide under the covers. I guess that'll save you.
Right. It saves everybody. Just hide under the covers. You can't see it,
Yeah,
right?
that's probably one of my favorite scenes, and the meme scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, good one to note is the fucking just the book itself. It's super
Oh,
detailed,
Yeah,
right.
super
the
fun,
introduction to the book is fantastic.
and it keeps fucking coming back.
Yeah, she destroys it, lights it on fire, and it still comes back to her doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
What a
Supernatural.
What a cool like input of like a cursed item. You rarely see those in film now. Like,
It is
cursed
not
Right.
common to have a cursed item because people don't do it well. The last movie that did that was that cursed box that was supposed to be part of like Jewish culture.
Oh, the Dybbuk box. I
Yeah.
actually have done a little bit of research about Dybbuk boxes.
So the readings for it are creepy as fuck.
Oh yeah, no, this is some real shit. Like, there's real accounts
Yeah.
of people opening this shit up and things going crazy.
The demons that are supposed to come out of that box is like one of the most terrifying things. But the movie was so bad,
Yeah.
and that I feel like that's why they're not doing it well. They're just not doing cursed items well.
What is the box called?
A Dybbuk box.
A Dybbuk box.
It's essentially a wooden box that's
Yeah.
sealed with wax, and then there's certain items that are placed inside the box that are supposed to relate to a certain demon, and usually the demon is placed into this box after an exorcism, and the items placed in there are of the person that was exorcised. And so the demons in these boxes are obviously pissed off because they're placed in there after an exorcism. Not only that, it's a box that they're trapped in eternally until somebody comes and opens it. So there's been a lot of accounts of hauntings from people who've opened these boxes. There's a lot of lore behind it. It's really interesting.
Can't just go around opening boxes,
Nah.
especially ones that have Hebrew scripture on the outside.
Right. Gnarly. But I think probably my favorite scene was same as Myrrh, the ending when the confronting of the Babadook and it just bursts into this ray of light. I really like the scene where it just ran down into the basement. When I was doing a little bit of research about like the camera work they did here, a lot of this was done with handheld.
Yeah,
And this part specifically, they put the handheld camera on a rope
yeah.
and just ran down the stairs with it, so it just looks completely chaotic and in disarray. I thought that was really interesting way to show this thing retreating now into the darkness after being defeated,
Oh man.
just like an animal.
Yeah, this was a
running.
bit of handheld camera work that I did not hate.
Yeah, right.
Because I usually do not like handheld camera work because
Well, it wasn't
of-
nauseating at least because it was short
yeah.
enough.
Well, I think that's why I don't like it because
Yeah.
I get motion sick really easily. So just watching some of this shit, I'm like watching what was that movie, Cloverfield? Couldn't do it.
Oh, jeez.
Couldn't do it. The whole thing is handheld, and I was like, I'm gonna fucking get sick watching this.
What about Blair Witch Project?
Yeah, it was awful. I thought the Blair Witch Project was an okay movie, and then I went to watch it, and I realized that it's an awful movie.
I
It was
watched
just
it-
original.
Yeah, I watched it when I was really young, and I hadn't seen a whole lot of horror at the time, so I thought it was fucking terrifying. But going back a few years later, I was like,
A nice replacement for the Blair Witch is VHS.
yeah, definitely.
It's a good found footage kind of horror film.
You guys talked about it in the past.
I really
want
wanna talk about it with you
oh,
guys.
we haven't yet.
No, I talked about it like on my 4th episode of this podcast, and it was
Oh, so we got to
awful.
redo it.
So
You mean the VHS was the first episode?
was it really the first one?
Oh,
man.
shit,
Because that was the
that
one
you did
with
with
the
that dude.
That's
guy.
right. Yeah.
That guy. We don't talk about him.
Yeah, so definitely want to talk about VHS. Probably just VHS by itself because it's like 5 different stories inside of it.
I like
it's an anthology
VHS
series.
too.
That one's like extreme fucking demon possession.
Yeah, the fucking
Oh
the
my
Vietnam
God.
fucking
Yeah,
complex.
that was just
That shit fucks me up. I watch
terrifying.
it every year because it's just so fun.
Yeah, fuck that. All right. Did you guys have any final thoughts then?
Did you have a favorite scene?
Oh, that's right. I didn't do mine. I think like you guys have mentioned most of them. The confrontation is great because you have the cutout of the Babadook that's kind of being wheeled forward as she's dealing with her own like extreme feelings during the situation, but also the scene where she goes into the police station to like talk to these guys and be like, there's something happening, and like they just don't believe her.
I'm getting stalked.
Yeah, and they're just like dismissing everything that she's saying, and it's so annoying.
They're like laughing and looking at her like she's crazy.
And like I appreciated that the entire film was just bleak. Like all of it is very dark palette,
Yeah.
but it's not boring. Like everything you're looking at in the set is very detailed. It's not just random stuff that's chosen.
Something I made note of is that like the architecture is very dark. Always
Yes.
the walls are dark, but the things that they're involved with are always very white and just blanched looking. Like
Yep.
the food is just like potato soup,
Yep.
something just totally bland and tasteless. Their clothing are just like bleak and white pastel colors, just really interesting contrast between the people and the surroundings.
I think the only sense of color you get for the film is when there's blood.
Yeah.
And that's it. Even then, it's like a darker color too. It's not like
right.
a bright...
And there weren't that many scenes with blood. I think
No.
probably the first one was when that little girl got punched.
Yeah, right. And then when she got
She
stabbed.
had a bloody nose, and then when the mother got stabbed, yeah.
I do also appreciate the scene where the mom kind of snaps and like cuts the phone line, kills the fucking dog. Like,
I feel like she was possessed in that moment
She
because
was.
her characteristics were completely different from how she was before.
yeah. So I've watched a few things on this where the director said that was the intention, was that the Babadook has now entered her body. She's fully possessed, and this is what happens when people are like when they're manic, when they do things that are not consistent with their behavior.
They're like
and
out
their
of
personality.
body.
Yeah. And they can't really, it's like when you go to court and someone does something because they're crazy, they can't be held responsible for certain things because they like weren't in their right mind. And so
Right.
for her, doing all these things was the manifestation of that mental illness, for her being so extreme that she's like threatening her child's life with a knife
Right.
at that point. And it's just like, who are you calling? Like, you're not calling anybody. So that was like a great bit of acting from her and the kid, which I guess was cut different at different times because they didn't want to have a fucking lady brandishing a knife at a kid
Yeah.
for these scenes. So it's like that's well done for them for their production work to be able to get something like this cut together, because you only got the full effect of what was happening in the final cut.
And also for doing things in a very humanitarian way.
Yeah, they didn't fuck up any of these actors.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was pretty much it. Guys, any final thoughts?
No.
Go ahead.
Whoa. We got our ratings, right? To
Not
still
yet.
Oh, no, not yet.
Oh.
Not yet. That's next.
Well, let's do it now.
Ratings is
ratings
fine.
right now, and along with final thoughts, do a
Yes,
combo.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I give the
combo wombo.
Babadook an 8, like 8.5 to like a 9. Just because I feel like there was like a little bit of melodramatic acting sometimes.
Okay.
That kind of took me out of it a little bit. But I love the general premise though, and I think that it's solid. And I think that it's a great movie if you want to see an interesting portrayal of grief and how to deal with like the psychological aspects that come with that.
I give it a solid 8.5. Good original idea, and I think it's a perfect runtime.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like
it really
it
is.
dragged on. It got straight to the point and shows something that is not very much shown in film.
Ironically, it's a long film. It's almost 2 hours.
And it's
Well,
great
it's
because
like an
doesn't
hour and
feel-
30, isn't it?
No, it's a little bit longer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she just is really good at writing.
Yeah.
She knows how to really pace everything.
I think I would probably also give her about 8.5. Because it didn't really feel like a long movie. Like a lot of times when I'm watching horror movies, there's the down moments that you don't really pay attention to. You kind of take out your phone. But there are no moments like that when I was watching this.
Yeah.
I was totally involved with everything. And the pacing was like it got to one point to the other and it kept continuing in a really good flow. Some moments were longer than others, but it really like helped up the ante and the anxiety that the characters were feeling. I love the visuals on this movie. I think my only thing is I just really like to be scared, and I'll give a horror movie a perfect score if it actually scares me. So that's the only reason I wouldn't give it a perfect score.
Oh, gotcha.
Otherwise, like I think it's a really good psychological thriller.
I would give this film like a 9.5. I think it's insanely original for all the things that it talks about. It's well done for a debut film. So for her to create this on her first going out for a film
impressive.
is really impressive as a director and as a writer, because she wrote it too. And then to be able to make that sort of acting come from these actors is something that's really hard to do.
Oh yeah, props to her for her methods of guiding the
Yeah,
actors.
to guide them through
In
what
an
it's going to feel
organic
like.
way.
Yeah, exactly. And she wasn't like yelling at them to start the scene and then stopping, and then it just feels like awkward. I think it would have felt more melodramatic if that's what she had done. But I think some of the scenes felt like that because it was coming from a theater background, of acting,
Yeah.
which has to be very expressionistic because people have to see what you're doing on stage.
Yeah, very big.
Yeah, you can't just do like small things, which is sometimes it doesn't translate well to film,
Yeah.
where you're like, why are they being so dramatic about what they're doing there? And it's just because they come from a theater background.
Right.
And both of them came from a theater background, both the main girl and the director. So that's why it ended up sort of turning out that way. And then they did an amazing job at world building. The bleak world that she lives in, that she's having to deal with, that's dark and grungy and just like dirty.
Also, something to know, the house that they were in was actually built for this movie. It's a like Victorian style house, and there aren't many other houses in the area that look like that. It was made specifically for this kind of feel.
Yeah, it was on a soundstage.
Yeah.
They built every single room of that house and detailed all of it. So the person who was on set construction for that movie had a lot of work to do for that, because they made every single thing. And because it was made on a soundstage, they could cut away walls to get certain shots, which is why you get some really, really tight shots of like seeing the entire room, and then it rotates around because they could remove walls instead of having to deal with the confined space of like an already built home.
Yeah.
So it worked to their advantage to be able to do that. So some cool stuff. It's a lot of hard work they put into it, which is why I appreciate it a lot.
I have another thing to say.
Yeah.
With everything that I have been listening to the rest of you guys discuss, I would say that this movie is a very good example of showing and not telling.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a really good example, and it's really good storytelling in general. So props to it for doing that.
Yeah, I like that they carried out the themes of storytelling with the book and how things were sort of cartoony almost.
And
doing stop motion and whatnot for certain scenes.
And they didn't need to explain anything about the book because it's all right there.
Yeah.
And as they pan through it, you can kind of, you as the viewer, piece it all together yourself.
Agreed.
And that's what makes it a great movie.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Then before we go, we also need to mention that we have a new Patreon fan. Who's actually in the room with us.
When did this happen? You didn't even tell us. We got here.
Hey, come here. Do a cameo appearance.
The other Eric.
Yes, the other Eric.
Cameo appearance. What's up, you guys? I'm going to listen to this later. Hey, what up?
What up?
Hey.
Sweet.
Just a few days ago joined. Go ahead.
I'll leave the movie about a kid with this edgy ass t-shirt I wore specifically for it. It screams, and it says, "We scream our way into existence in 9 months after someone else gets fucked."
Mic drop.
Oh, jeez. Who made this shirt? Oh, okay.
Look at that.
Dang. There's like a gun on the floor and everything.
There's like a woman,
I like the Grim
fetus
Reaper
coming
with
out.
the tits out, smoking a cigarette on the couch.
tits out,
While
smoking
this,
a cigarette.
craziness is going like, all right,
If you
yeah.
notice,
God.
she has like a heroin needle in her fucking arm. I love you, street sex. Edgelords.
For real. Oh, my God. So, yes, we have a new Patreon fan, patron, who is now contributing some cash to our podcast. So we'll definitely get a special episode for you for something that you're interested in. And then, as we mentioned before, if you want to recommend something and have it talked about on the podcast, the easiest way to do it, join the Patreon and give us a recommendation, because we will get it done within like the next week or two or something like that after you joining.
I mean, also, you could also just comment on our posts.
Also, leave us
Yep.
comments on things, because we've already had people disagree with us.
Oh,
So
right.
we welcome you to the
Yeah,
fray.
it's totally fine.
We'll deal with you in the best way customer service reps know how.
I know that. I gave her like the most customer service answer.
Oh, it was
possible.
great. It was so good. I was like, yes.
It's like, actually, I did go to college.
Right, I know. Sorry, I have a degree, but whatever. So,
If she was in front of us, she wouldn't be wearing a mask.
oh man,
Dang.
Like,
Man,
yeah, put it
that's
that way.
brutal.
That's
Oh.
great.
Karen, where you at?
If you can, leave us a review on the Apple Podcast or anywhere that you can leave reviews for the podcast. We're on all the social medias, so you can go look for BDTGH_podcast, or you can go to the website bdtghpodcast.com. You can listen to the episodes there, or you can follow them through to one of the streaming sites. Fuck you, Mer.
No.
Not without dinner first.
Yeah, not without dinner first.
Oh, dang.
Ooh,
All
he a
right.
classy hoe. Okay.
Yeah, for real. I got to buy dinner and drinks first.
Yeah, if any singles in the area are looking to get mingled, hit up Murr, buy him dinner first.
Buy him dinner first.
Mingled by the Mong. That's for you Salsa Verde
Claps.
guys out there. I know who you are.
Holy shit.
I'm gonna exit the room now.
Well, thank you so much
Wait, Mur.
for
he's
coming to talk
blushing.
about
Please
these
get
two
your point
films.
of view.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your point of view, Murr?
Bringing it back.
This point of view, short and interrupted by a child.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh my god.
yo!
Mic drop out.
Watch to find
Oh
out.
man. Thanks for discussing this movie because it was amazing and there was a lot of stuff in it.
I agree. Thank you for recommending this movie. Wait, who recommended? Was it you?
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for this
I did a whole report
recommendation.
on it in school, so I was like, this is actually, there's a lot here.
He's too prepared. I saw him going over his old PowerPoints, just saying.
Yeah, I went over like a year and a half old PowerPoint for it. Oh, sorry, no, Prezi. It was Prezi. His
Oh,
fuck PowerPoint.
Prezi. Fancy.
I'm Mitch.
I'm Mer.
I'm Justine.
And I'm Jonathan. Thank you.